Hello and welcome. You're watching Newsbreak with me, Sanket Upadhyay. Now, an important decision has been taken by the union government. This is to increase the minimum support price. But will it necessarily work for the farmer is the big question. Now, before we get into this discussion, it is very important to know what exactly has happened. We'll put those graphics on screen one by one and start by telling you what is the minimum support price which has been hiked. Let's go full frame to this, please. In just a short moment, you will have this full frame on your screen where the wheat MSP price has been hiked by 7%. So the price per quintal is 2,275. Masoor is also hiked by 7% at 6,425. Barley is at 6.6% at 1,850. And chana has been hiked by 2% at 5,440. Mustard by 3.6% at 5,650. Rapeseed at 3.6% at 5,650, and at 5,800 rupees a quintal, a hike of 2.6% is sunflower. Now, what really was the MSP formula that was recommended by the Swaminathan Commission? You see, a lot has been said by many farmers that if you want to increase the MSP, you must increase it to what has been found acceptable by many farmers and farmer unions, which is the Swaminathan Commission recommendation. Has that happened or not is going to be a subject matter of discussion in just a short moment, which said that 50% more than the weighted average of the cost of production. This is what is going to be or should be the formula to calculate the minimum support price. Now, there's a very complicated matrix. I'm not going to bore you with the details. Those graphics will appear on your screen one by one. But let's quickly tell you what is the row over the cost calculation, which has always been the big debating point between farmer unions as well as the government. The minimum support price, the government claims the Swaminathan formula has already been implemented and that the government has set up MSP at 1.5 times the cost of production. The farmers, though, claim that the cost calculation in MSP is flawed. They say that the rent interest is not part of the cost calculation. And the farmers also say that the MSP should be calculated as per a formula which they have provided, which was there in the Swaminathan Commission as well. And that would definitely mean that it will be higher. Now, farmer households in poll-bound states and the beneficiaries under the PM Samman Nidhi in these states are on your screen right now. So there are about 76 lakh such beneficiaries in Madhya Pradesh, 57 lakh in Rajasthan, and about 30 lakh in Telangana. So it's very, very significant, the list of these beneficiaries who would directly benefit from this increase in the MSP. So the big question that we are asking will be on your screen right now. Is this a festive bonanza for farmers? And will the MSP hike reap high yields in elections in these poll-bound states? Now, before we get into the politics of it, it's important to understand the farmer's perspective. So I would like to introduce Mr. Prakash Chand Sharma, is a farmer leader, and Ravneet Barar is a spokesperson of BKU Kadyan. Thank you very much. Mr. Sharma, you go first. Do you think that this will bring in the much needed relief for the farmers, but does it fulfill their demand of accepting the Swaminathan Commission recommendations?
Sanket, we need to see it as overall. Right now, you just mentioned about all the concern between the present rate what we are offering to the farmers and the new rate what you have hiked up from the 2 to 7%. But if you see the Modi government as a totality, what they are doing for the farmers, you will see they have raised from 62% to more than 100% in few of this, this harvest. So if you would just compare the MSP from 2014-15 and the proposed now, it's a very big hike. Apart from that, lot of scheme year to year, they are just launching it. You just mentioned about the PM Samman Yojana. There are other schemes also where the digitalization is coming. Lot of the support mechanism is coming. So that is the directly or indirectly they are supporting the farmers. And apart from that, we will also see the procurement, what the procurement we was doing earlier. If I will just talk you about the MSP procurement in 2013-14, it was 48,000 crore in metric ton. And if I will talk about the 2021, you will see 24 lakh, the metric ton crore. So this is a big number in jump what the procurement on the MSP government is doing right now. Apart from that, the big aspect is there. The open market is there. So it is not only the MSP, they are also getting the price on the higher side. So this is, we have to see as a concluding part, as an overall part, where the farmers are getting beneficiary. And in this particular geopolitical situation, the world is in a very total aspect. Climate change is impacting. India is a country who is not only feeding successfully to their people, they are also helping other nations to feed them, they are supplying them, and we are very much sure that we have sufficient, food stuff and the full management with us, with the government, to see, to handle the emergency and the crisis situation.
Okay, Mr. Barar, your views.
Sanketji, let me take you back to 2014, when our Honorable Prime Minister said, okay, we're going to double the farmers' income by 2022. So how it worked? There was a formula given by Dr. Swaminathan ji. It was C2 plus 50%. So they accepted the government in 2014. They said, okay, we will implement the formula by 2022 and the farmers' income will be doubled by 2022. But sadly, the budget already passed and there was nothing like that doubling the farmers' income. Even we were expecting it. It was also promised to us during the farmer agitation, the farmer protest we had over there, that we will double your income in the next budget. But how it worked? They are using a formula A2 plus FL. But what it was suggested by Dr. Swaminathan, it was C2 plus 50%. So even if I go by the CAPC, the website data, for the now...
Can you explain for the benefit of our viewers, Mr. Barar, the difference between these two formulas? What you asked for, C2 plus 50, what does that mean? And what the government is providing right now, how is that different from what you're demanding?
There is basically the calculation, the difference in those two things. So what government is doing, government is taking the data, the numbers by their own, and they are implementing, they are saying that we are giving farmers 1.5 times of the basic input cost. But what actually is happening, even if we go by CSCP data, the input cost for the wheat comprehensive cost this year is 1652 and the MSP is 2275. But in actual, it should be 2478. So already the farmer is in a loss of 200 rupees, even if we go by the data of the government that they provided on their website. So what is happening? Sanandji, I'll also tell you the wheat price in the market today, it's almost 2,500. And we are offering farmers 2,275 after 6 months. Already it's 2,500 in the market, even if we go to the market to buy wheat. So there is a huge difference between the calculations the government is doing and what we farmers were expecting. And one thing I want to add, we were expecting it will be a great tribute to Dr. Swaminathan, as he was the man behind making India self-sufficient in food grains. So they, in 2000, the file is on the table since 2006, when he gave the total report of this MSP formula. But since almost after 15 to 20 years, even now the government is not considering his idea of implementing.
Let's get a response to that from Mr. Prakash Chand Sharma. So, Mr. Sharma, you've just been told about how the formula needs to be computed or how it was recommended in the Swaminathan Commission, whom we lost only a few days ago, versus what is being provided right now.
Sanket, as I told in my earlier comments, we need to see as a comprehensive approach. What Mr. Balaj is looking, he is very choosy and he is looking very particular part of things. this is not the right situation. Government is providing a lot of subsidies. There is a particular metrics. Already situation is there on the district level. There is a state level. There is a central level. All the agencies, all the people, they are doing it. The farmers representative are there. Now, the issue is what he is talking about, the price into the market. We need to understand that this is totally based on the demand and supply. Though the government is doing it in many of the times when the crop will come, obviously the prices will be low because the supply is very low. We have seen in so many commodities, in the perishable items. We have seen into the tomatoes as well as the onions. So as far as the MSPs is concerned, government is totally considering. And one thing I just want to highlight into it, the Modi government into the last 10 years, what they have did with the reports of Mr. Swaminathan, they have implemented in the fullest way, and that is the reason when Mr. Modi ji as a honorable Prime Minister is talking about the 5 trillion economy that goes through this farmers, farm, the cooperatives and the villages. So the total budget, the total focus to provide the infrastructure on a level, the crop onto a level, despite having so many inequalities and so many, the problems from the environment, the climate change, a lot of things are there. So we need to see as a comprehensive part, and already what we have promised in 2014 and now 22, if you will see it, already we have provided the 100%. When the MSP of the wheat into 14-15 was 1400, now it's almost double. It's a 2275. If I will just talk about this Mashur 2950, now it's a 6425, 118% of the jump. So accordingly the procurement, the prices was there, but no mechanism was there for the procurement. But now you see the procurement, the way the government is doing the procurement, we talk about the FCI, you see about the NAFED, the NCCF and all the other, the concern, they are doing in a very concerned and very open way.
Mr. Barar, your response?
Sanketji, I just want to explain one thing. Even the viewers sitting there and even your studio people will come to the conclusion and they will understand it better. See, I'll take you to 1981. The wheat price was 141 and the diesel price was 2 rupees 27 paisa. So if we sell 1 quintal of wheat, we used to take 62 liter of diesel back home. But now, even after increasing the MSP and everything, what Mr. Sharma is talking, and we are increasing farmers' income, we need to sell 3 quintals of wheat to take 62 liters of diesel home. So who is gaining here? So even what the point of we are putting is, they are not considering the input cost. It is increasing day by day. Every day there is a new cost for pesticide, for fertilizers, for tractor repair, for the labor, for the tires, for all the machinery that we use. But they are calculating it in a decade before it was like this, and the whole thing is revolving around this. The farmer is not getting paid. The income is a second thing. He is not being paid the actual input he is occurring for his crops.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Prakash Chand Sharma, as well as Ravneet Barar for joining us. With that, we come to the second part of this discussion, and this discussion is whether this MSP hike will reap high yields in polls for the Bharatiya Janata Party. Will it happen, or can it happen? Will this make the farmers happy enough to perhaps vote in favor of the BJP, among other things, because of course farmer distress in all these 3 states was a major issue, definitely among the farmers. Sanjay Singh is a senior journalist, and so is Mr. Madhavan Narayanan. Let's quickly get their opinion. Mr. Sanjay Singh, what do you feel?
Sanket, in your initial remarks, you also talked about Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi. And I think that is something which I have seen on the ground that makes a difference in terms of how people perceive it on the ground, what difference it makes in their livelihood, and also around the input cost, and how it benefited the BJP during the polls in several states, parliamentary election in particular. Now, this MSP, of course, is a very, very sensitive issue. Each time an MSP hike is there, different farmer bodies express their disagreement with this particular thing. And also there was this very engaging debate discussion happening before we started, this section of your program started. So there are two issues. What farmers are saying, what political parties generally talk about. BJP had talked about, I think, 1.5% increase in from your input cost, say 50% increase from your input cost, and doubling farmers' income. I think in some of areas that is largely successful, if not 100%. In some areas, of course, like in terms of wheat, from what I gathered from the statement that was made yesterday by the government, that in terms of wheat, the hike or in terms of from input cost, whatever that gain is maximum. The point here is whether they will be able to convince people on the ground, the farmers on the ground where these elections are going to happen, and will the opposition parties can raise this effectively, because mostly their argument is concentrated on loan waiver. Here there is no loan waiver. So therefore, I think that puts a very interesting matrix on the ground where mostly Congress generally talks a lot in terms of loan waiver, and BJP will be talking in terms of MSP hike. Nonetheless, on the ground, this gives a good talking point, a substantive talking point for the BJP to let people decide on the subject and try and convince, of course.
Mr. Madhavan, your response. Do you feel that this will work in the elections?
Let me begin, Sanket, by saying something which any agriculture watcher should know. The basic aphorism that one man's price is another man's income. It's very important to know this because BJP is always worried about inflation because most of Indians are above the poverty line now. And therefore, inflation is more politically sensitive than agriculture prices. But the two of them are joined at the hip, which means that if you increase farm prices, it affects the urban votes politically. Second thing is that farm votes are not just about farmers who own land, it also about agricultural laborers and workers. There have been reports about the stagnation of wages in the agriculture sector for agricultural workers. And my calculation overall shows that the government has just about managed to protect in agricultural farmers from inflation. So and we've had enough arguments in the previous half of the show about how cost is calculated. So statistics don't reveal sufficiently. I agree with Sanjay that some of the atmospherics about like the Kisan Samman Yojana or the Kisan Credit Card, those kind of things can have a marginal impact, but nothing is a substitute for the core price issue, which translates as income. Now, let me come to the next part. There have been also three other factors which we have not discussed today. First is that the government has often cited the fact that there are WTO restrictions on subsidies that has kept in the first 5 years of Mr. Modi's rule. That was a key issue, I suspect. And therefore, some of these Swaminathan Commission related issues have been implemented only in the recent years. And so there is a overhang effect that has not been taken into account, not to speak of things like demonetization and COVID that have had their own impact on the agricultural workers or farmers' sense of welfare. So all these things together have an impact at the polls. And to that extent, the feel-good factor on agricultural workers as well as farmers is not, in my opinion, sufficient to give a sense of satisfaction. The truth may be somewhere in between what the farm union workers are saying and what the government is claiming. And in terms of voting, what it means is that it may vary from region to region. And
other factors.
And also, please understand, some of the issues are related to crop mixes. For instance, pulses have seen a much better increase than wheat. Wheat was supposed to be discouraged because of the fact that it is guzzling water, even for climate change reasons. Now, there was a valid point by the farmer leaders in your previous half. It's about diesel costs. There was a honeymoon for everybody in the first 5 years of Mr. Modi's rule because oil prices were lower. Now, oil prices have shot up. So, in a composite sense, including input costs, last but not the least, let me say, there has been a general stagnation, but last but not the least, real economists like Sukumai Chakraborty in the past have talked about terms of trade. which is about parity between agriculture and industry, because the farmer doesn't look just at the cost, although they talk about it. They also look at it as in terms of how do I stand vis-a-vis the urban people. So the GDP growth has been around 7% plus in the past decade or so, whereas inflation has been lower. So if your input, if your support prices are linked to inflation rather than national income, you feel a sense of being a laggard in the national progress. All this will play out in the election narrative. I have seen this in Punjab. Farmers are not just talking about farm prices; they are talking about lifestyles. So if you're not elevating them from livelihoods to lifestyles, that is the phraseology that I use to bring about there is always a peer group influence across the economy. Everybody likes to compare himself or herself with somebody that he or she considers to be her peer. If you look at all this, I feel that the voting pattern is just about, this is a saving grace for Mr. Modi. The impact of this MSP increase has to be felt. We are only 6 weeks away from the elections. All this, to me, it seems it's like a sort of a slog over shot in a cricket match. I would rather wait for ground level reactions, which may be less than the anger shown by the union leaders, but it is not a game changer or a match winner for Mr. Modi.
What is your assessment, Mr. Sanjay Singh, that fine, this brings in relief, but maybe the central government may be a bit too excited about the relief that it has provided to hope for reaping rich political dividends?
Sanket, anybody who provides relief, of course, would be excited and talk a lot about it, taken to be very natural. Madhavan Narayanji, I respect him a lot. He explained that portion very well. The fact remains that farm workers' kind of condition is also taken care of by the free food race that is given to them post-COVID. That has contributed a lot in terms of their well-being, at least in terms of they don't have to care about their hunger. So that part is taken care of to an extent, about lifestyle and about how it impacts in terms of going to the polls. Of course, actual benefits, what people get have got over the years, and based on that, you assess a political party or a government's credibility. That okay, if this party or if this government is saying something, they will be delivering, or they will be at least they have capacity and willingness to deliver. In that particular count, I think BJP has slight edge. BJP has quite an edge over the Congress. But then again, anti-incumbency and a whole lot of other factors come into play when it goes to election. But since you have done something substantive, you have announced this thing for Rabi crops, which will come into effect only months later. But announcement of this has been, BJP has done this since the time farmer agitation started. The BJP government, Modi government out here. We are announcing the MSP beforehand so that you actually know as to when the product is there, what are you going to get. And therefore, they have announced this time. It's easy to link that with the kind of election will start very shortly when senior leaders, after nominations are over, would be going at the ground level, campaigning will start. But definitely, yes, this is a good talking point for the BJP in terms when in an election when this time around, you see freebies are announced, like n number of freebies are announced, from giving the Congress party announcing like giving houses in Telangana, 250 square yard houses in Telangana to those who fought for Telangana state, to a whole lot of other freebies. In fact, the amount of freebies, if one calculates that have been announced in a state like Madhya Pradesh, that would perhaps be equal or even go beyond the state budget. So a whole lot of factors would come into play. Of course, a good talking point for the ruling party at the center.
Okay, Mr. Madhavan's quick response, just 1 minute left.
Yeah, I quite agree with Sanjay that some of the atmospherics are critical. But it's very interesting that he mentioned that in agricultural subsidies, there will be, Mr. Modi speaks against freebies. But if you look at what Madhya Pradesh government has been doing, lots of freebies for farmers from both parties. Congress has been promising Congress has been delivering in Chhattisgarh, which is next door to Madhya Pradesh. So there will be a lot of note taking from both sides on how much of these state government incentives are really working. So a lot of the decisions in voting will depend on the back of the envelope calculations that each farmer does. And there is a competitive sort of populism going on between Congress and BJP, because please understand, BJP's traditional plank of Hindutva is relatively less impactful in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, and to some extent even in Rajasthan. To that extent, agriculture becomes so important for the election that details matter. And both parties are showering subsidies. And like I like to joke, even LPG gas has become so important, they are firing on all cylinders. Therefore, this is going to be interesting. But yes, the incumbency factor is going to be critical. So people will have to, the incumbents will have to go that extra mile to impress farmers. And I don't see sufficient signs of that.
All right, Madhavan Narayanan as well as Sanjay Singh, thank you very much for joining us. With that, we have come to the end of this broadcast. News continues on the other side.